After the first week of preseason football, one of the biggest storylines for the Browns is whether or not they might be interested in re-signing JC Tretter after the Nick Harris injury, which we're going to update you guys on. But if you want JC Tretter back on the Browns, hit that thumbs up icon to start today's show. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report, the 1-0 Cleveland Browns Report following the win in week 1 of the preseason against the Jags. Matthew Peterson here. Really appreciate everyone that tuned in, by the way, for our live stream for the game yesterday. That was awesome. I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, but come on, it's football. Like, time to be gritty, time to, pull your pants up and be a big boy here. So, first rumor/overreaction on today's show. We're going to go through a couple of them because it's all over the place. Should the Browns sign JC Tretter? I give it 3 Bernie heads. We go back to our Bernie meter reveal here, meaning 4 is like 100%, 1 is like, I don't think so, Jim. But I go 3, okay? Unfortunately, it's not a good reason why we're talking about signing JC Tretter. It's not because Nick Harris was not good last night. It's an injury-related thing here. Mary Kay tweeting out, Kevin Stefanski says starting center Nick Harris will likely need season-ending right knee surgery after injuring it on the second play of the victory over the Jags. Huge blow for the Browns, but he likes Ethan Posick. That's the center they signed in free agency from Seattle, who wasn't that good with the Seahawks. We can do a deeper dive on him a little bit later. But what about the obvious thing in the room here? Bring back JC Tretter, right? So if you remember, the Browns released him back in March in a cap-saving move. Saved about $8.5 million. He's still a free agent, which is very bizarre in my opinion. I don't have a good reason for why JC Tretter is not with the team. The only reason I could come up with is JC Tretter and his agent got a couple calls from teams that weren't contenders. And Tretter said, you know what? I know football. If I wait and I'm patient, the nature of the game is injuries. One might pop up with a team that I'm interested in playing in, and maybe I'll go back there. Because I don't think anyone last year walked away after the season thinking JC's best days are behind him. He was one of the best centers in football last year. I mean, if you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, he ranked 6th out of 39th. We're talking about a guy who's top 10 at his own position, and it's week 1 of the preseason, and he's still on the street. Now, there have been some murmurs of teams not liking that he is the NFLPA president, and they don't want that, they don't want that in their locker room to start spreading like Marxism or something like that. It's just ridiculous in my opinion. But great overall grade, only gave up 1 sack, 5 penalties. Sure, he's not the most mobile center, and that's kind of where Nick Harris had the edge and why the Browns were comfortable with making that switch. But I'd love to see JC Tretter come back to the Browns. Now, let's not forget the real story here. Unfortunate for Nick Harris. I was excited to see what he could do for the Browns this year. 5th-round pick out of Washington that's looked good when he's gotten the chance. He's been sitting behind one of the best to play the position the last decade. So it was a bummer to see that happen, especially in preseason on the second play of the game. Sucked to see. So let's spam his jersey number 53 down in the comments section. Let him know that the Dog Pound wants to see him back on the field as soon as possible. Next, overreaction/rumor from week 1. Does Anthony Schwartz have brick hands? Guys, I give it 3 Bernie heads. I'm not going to overreact too much like some people are and go, cut the man. Get him out of here. No, I'm not going to go all the way that far after what was a bad preseason game, okay? He recorded 2 drops during Friday night's win against the Jags, and it's unfortunate that those drops also made Deshaun Watson look like he even had much of a worse night, going 1 for 5. Well, if Schwartz catches either of those passes, they most likely result in a first down, and they keep the drive alive, and Watson gets to throw more, and we get to see more from number 4. But Anthony Schwartz came into the preseason on a bit of a hot seat. After a disappointing season last year, a 3rd-round pick who didn't show much for the Browns fans out there, yeah, not the ideal start to the next season. Now, I'm going to put this out here. Let's pump the brakes on on Anthony Schwartz sucks. Time to cut him. Cut your losses. Let's just call it what it was, a bust. I'm not saying that can't be the case. I'm not going to get to that point because of one bad quarter in preseason football. Now, if this continues into the regular season, that's a different conversation. But to have it after one bad quarter of preseason football, and by the way, let's all remind ourselves, this is kind of what preseason football is all about, getting the kinks out and whatnot. You don't want to see patterns develop, but unfortunately, there has been a bit of a pattern for Schwartz of he's got great speed. It's the hands that are a bit of the issue here, and that carried over. Now, last year, if you're curious, he did not do much for the Browns. Only 10 receptions, that touchdown in the Packers game. I mean, after the Week 2 interception in the Texans game, Baker never really looked at Schwartz again. I mean, Schwartz talked about that just a couple of weeks ago. He was pretty direct and honest and frank about the broken relationship that he and Baker kind of had because of that. Now, be honest with me, though. I wanted to have a real talk about this here. I'm not your parent here, but do you believe in Anthony Schwartz? Why for yes and for no? I understand why if anyone came into this year, they weren't believers, and last night kind of just helped prove their argument. All I'm going to say is do not let one bad preseason game be the straw that broke the camel's back. You know what I'm saying? That can't be what is the end-all, be-all here. All right, next rumor on the show here. Deshaun Watson was his debut a failure, giving it one Bernie head. I'm not going to go read into this too much. The guy played not a lot of football. He played didn't even finish a full first quarter here. So no, I'm not going to go look and say Deshaun Watson was an absolute failure and it was just an absolute bust, because that's not what I took away from this year. He went 1 for 5 for 7 yards. Yeah, not ideal if you just look at the stats. He had an overthrow on the first play. It was a bootleg rolled out to his left. Then he had 2 good throws to Schwartz that were drops. And then you got Dearness Johnson fumble on the second play of the second series. So the offense was just bad, okay? Sure, it's preseason football, so you can kind of like chalk it up to that a little bit and go, well, it's only preseason football, so. But you, of course, want to see a little bit more from your $230 million QB. But I'm not going to actually walk away from this game having any sort of concern about Watson as a quarterback because of his 3-series performance in his first game since the end of the 2020 season, okay? Now, Mary Kay, by the way, speaking with head coach Kevin Stefanski today during the presser with an interesting nugget that came out of it, saying Kevin Stefanski said Jacoby Brissett will take the majority of the first-team reps this week. He also noted that rookie wide receiver Michael Woods will be idle again. It's unfortunate. I was really looking forward to seeing Woods, but dealing with that hamstring issue. But let's look at a little closer at Jacoby Brissett. Is anyone else, or was it just me, that found it a bit bizarre he was a healthy scratch? The Browns had 10 healthy scratches yesterday. 9 of them made perfect sense to me. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Garrett, Clowney. What do they have to prove, right? No, you don't need those guys, okay? They're not out there for anything to prove themselves. But Jacoby Brissett was bizarre, right? Were we expecting to see a little bit of him because he's got to show I can be the QB for this team if and kind of when a Deshaun Watson suspension happens? Now, we'll get to more on Jacoby Brissett in just a moment, but I want to tell everyone watching about what the great features are over at Rumble. So, Rumble has so many awesome features that YouTube doesn't always stack up with. So, for example, play in picture. If you want to have your video going while you're texting or while you're on Twitter, you can do that on Rumble. Plus, they've got uncensored content. Both channels of ours do have PD's polos, which yesterday was not a pink polo. It's an orange polo. The camera did not do me justice. It added 10 pounds and it turned my polo pink. But check us out over on Rumble. We've got more Browns coverage. That link's in the comments and the description, by the way. Okay, so moving on here. Let's talk about the rookies for a second, because did the rookies look awesome last night? Yeah, they did. 4 Bernie heads. Andrew Berry, despite not picking until round 3 of the draft this year, and by choice, he made the most of the picks he had, okay? Let's look at some of the stats that came out of this rookie class, some UDFAs and whatnot. Martin Emerson with the game-changing interception, the pick 6, 75 yards. that completely turned around the momentum of this game. Isaiah Thomas, 7th-round pick out of Oklahoma, who had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. He looked great. Now, again, it is preseason. They're going up against the other team's backups. Won't be the case in the regular season. But you can only do what you can against the guy lined up opposite of you. So make the most of your opportunity. Not David Bell, DeAnthony Bell, okay? DeAnthony Bell was just fantastic, okay? He had a big forced fumble, a nice punch to draw the ball loose. Perrion Winfrey, Alex Wright, not really any big noteworthy plays. And then Odom, Chris Odom, who signed after being the USFL star this past season, he recorded a sack. But the biggest rookie star for sure was this guy, Jerome Ford. I mean, if it wasn't for Martin Emerson's pick 6, he was absolutely a no doubt unanimous MVP of the rookie class. 10 carries for 57 yards, 45 receiving yards. He had 1 touchdown through the air, 1 on the ground, showcasing his ability to be a versatile back, and that's what the Browns wanted when they picked him in round 5 out of Cincinnati. So let's welcome Jerome Ford to the Dog Pound by typing his number down below. God, my voice is hoarse. I got to get back in bed. But let's show him some love. 34 down in the comments section. Let's welcome him to the Dog Pound for having a wonderful, awesome Browns debut in the preseason. Final overreaction / rumor. Josh Dobbs, QB1 for Bernie Heads. The guy was awesome. I mean, not really. Don't actually think I'm being serious about Josh Dobbs being a starter week 1 for the Browns, even if Deshaun Watson is suspended. But Dobbs, he had to have a good game, right? He has to show Andrew Berry, I can be a backup quarterback. Not a third-string quarterback. A backup quarterback if a suspension happens. And he showcased that last night. 10 for 13. He just looked so decisive and confident with the football. You know what I mean? He looked like he was playing. It looked like a pro who went back to college a little bit. And he's like, I am way smarter than everyone on the field. I feel like a field general, okay? 1 touchdown, which I thought he crossed the line of scrimmage, but that beautiful little floater, barely keeping a toenail behind the line to stay on side. No interceptions. I mean, this is the best part of preseason football, in my opinion, because you get to see guys like Josh Dobbs, who are roster bubble players, prove themselves that they deserve to be in this league. And even if there's not a spot on the Browns, you better believe all 31 other teams are looking at every other team's preseason notes and takeaways and whatnot, stats and highlights, and going, well, they might not need a quarterback, but we sure could use a quarterback. And if Dobbs is able to land a spot on someone's roster, hopefully the Browns, after he played last night, I wouldn't mind him being the backup quarterback, all right? He's a rocket scientist. Take us to the moon. We're going to go right past Doge, and we'll go on the Dobbs train all the way past the moon, going to Phoenix. All right, here we go. I got some other quick takeaways here. Jamarcus Bradley, is he replacing Jakeem Grant? I mean, I thought after Jakeem Grant got injured, we would see punt and kick return by committee, kind of a trial. Not the case. I mean, didn't see Demetric Felton doing it. It's all Jamarcus Bradley. He was fine. He didn't make any big plays, but that's special teams. Like, you can't ask for a huge return every game. All right, next one, Jordan Elliott. The guy looked like a starter. He looked good in the first half of that game when he was really getting some reps in. If we are, and I am, concerned about the defensive tackle position, if you want to overreact to one preseason game, it's Jordan Elliott might be able to hold on to the job and not have us go look to sign Ndamukong Suh. A.J. Green is underrated. That's my last overreaction / takeaway. I love the guy, okay? I really do. He has a knack for getting on screen and being a playmaker. I mean, sure, he didn't have a 75-yard pick 6 or didn't force a fumble, and he may have given up some completions here or there or whatever, but in general, I think A.J. Green would be a CB3 on most other teams. For the Browns, CB5, right? CB4. After Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Greedy Williams, MJ Emerson, A.J. Green, 5. For other teams, probably like a 3, at least a 4. So love what I see out of A.J. Green. Love what I saw out of him last year in the preseason. UDFA out of Oklahoma State that's just been grinding his way. You love to see it. All right, that is going to do it for us on today's show. Really appreciate it once again for everyone that tuned in for our live watch party. That was a huge success. The bosses loved it here at Chat Sports. Definitely going to have the green light to do more of those throughout the season. But if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and make sure you do so.